The recipe that I'm making today, I dedicated to my mother-in-law, and I'm from Punjab, um, rural Punjab, and so is she, obviously. But somehow I grew up in, like, I traveled and grew up in different places, and as a result, I wasn't as skilled, as knowledgeable when it came to Punjabi culture. So after I got married, my mother-in-law, who speaks Tate Punjabi, for those who know what that means, like pure dialect of Punjabi. My parents didn't really speak Punjabi to me because there was a time in our history, I would say, when speaking Punjabi was considered something more like a kind of savage or lower level of intellect, I guess. And parents started speaking Urdu to their children, and that happened to me as well, because when mom and dad moved to Tanzania at that time, and they started speaking Urdu to us, and as a result, and the community around was mostly Urdu speaking too, so it's not just the parents, it's just the environment that we were in, so speaking Urdu as a result. But anyway, after my marriage, I taught myself how to speak Tate Punjabi, and I can speak Tate Punjabi very fluently. My mother-in-law, she makes the most delicious Methi Paratha. Those are like fenugreek pancakes, fenugreek paratha, and with lassi, they're like a traditional Punjabi food. So Methi Paratha with lassi or with some raita, delectable. It's so delicious. So we're going to make that. Let's go to the kitchen. This is fenugreek or methi, and we only take the leaves of it, and we take the stems out, but we keep the softer stems. Other than that, we clean it up, washed it. This is cleaned and washed. And we need flour with some clarified butter, ghee, or just melted butter, Thai chili, red chilies, and salt. That's all you need. And in addition to that, you will need more of the butter to make the paratha itself. Yeah. So first off, we're going to take this fenugreek and put it in a food processor. We're going to add Thai chili. For 12 cups of flour, I use 16 Thai chilies, but you can adjust them to your taste. Salt, some of the chilies, and we will. 3 bunches of methi is going to yield about 2 measuring cups of chopped methi. So generally when I make dough for methi paratha or any kind of roti, I don't measure, I just guesstimate just by looking at it. But for the sake of my daughter, who's very precise with her measuring, I'm going to use, let's say this is 2 cups of methi coming from 3 bunches of methi with salt and pepper, and I will start adding flour and see how many cups this can take. So now this is 10 cups of flour with 2 cups of ground methi, like a methi paste, with about 10 to 16 green chilies, Thai chilies, depending on how hot you want the parathas to be. And I'm going to mix it together, and then if need be, I will add some more flour. And the water is green because I use the same pan that I had chopped methi in. So it's not that I put any green color in it, but this flour or the dough is going to turn all greenish. If you're into slow life, like this is truly slow life, when you take time to make your food, and especially instead of using machines, you just prefer to make the dough with hands. So hand tossed Methi Paratha. It's quite a workout actually for your shoulders too. So you let it sit for a little bit, and then we will, in about 3 to 5 minutes, we'll come back to this and knead it a little more. That it is really good for lowering your blood sugar level. So this was quite a bit of workout for my shoulders and my arms, but the dough is ready. We're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes before we start making parathas. While we wait for our dough to soften a little before we start paratha, we're going to make some lassi, red plain yogurt, and about a teaspoon of salt, and fill it up with water and blend it. Lassi in a traditional clay pot, which is made in Khushab, another village in Punjab which is known for beautiful clay pots. And lassi was a traditional drink in Punjab before the British Raj. So one of the impacts of colonialism was that from lassi drinkers we became chai drinkers. Set for making paratha. Pans on, the heat to medium. So making videos is not easy. You really have to come out of your comfort zone, and it's quite time consuming actually, but I'm hoping that my kids and whoever watches can benefit from this. So I'll put a little bit of butter in the middle of. So after dusting with some white flour, I don't use whole wheat flour for dusting because that creates a lot of mess. Instead I use white flour, it creates less. So you let it cook on one side, and then we will flip it, put some butter on top, and then flip it and cook again. Paratha is cooking. I'll show you this basket, or the changair it's called. This is made in Khushab as well, my mom's birthplace. My aunties used to make them. That was back in 1960s, and they were living in villages, and even 70s. But it seems like after 80s, the world just changed so rapidly, one can't even comprehend and can't even keep pace with it. I'm so lucky to have this. You can see that paratha is done on this side. I'm going to put some more butter on the other side to make it really nice and rich. Flip it over. And no, I don't use tongs. After cooking for so many years, my hands have become quite, I think quite strong, I guess. And they can handle a hot roti. But if you're new to cooking, making parathas and roti, then better use a pair of tongs or some tool that will help you. So this again is a tradition to use a fabric in a traditional print instead of using paper towels, but feel free to use paper towels. This is what we use traditionally, a square piece of fabric, and it's usually made in Faisalabad, another place in Punjab. So our paratha is all done. We use our Methi Paratha with a traditional drink, Lassi. Enjoy. This is so delicious. If you made too much dough, you can always make balls or freeze them in muffin tins and thaw them and then make parathas and rotis as needed.